In the previous episode, my researches for an affordable small yet capable camera led me to the Nikon Coolpix A. While there was a lot to love about this camera, the overall experience wasn't flawless either, mainly because of its autofocus, that makes it unreliable in too much scenarios, to the point where one day I decided to stop using it and then sold it. I am now back where I started, looking for a replacement. The thing is, we do not have that many options in terms of compact IPS-C cameras. And what about macro four third? Or the M word? Or the dead camera system? Because according to the internet it may be, or at least it is regularly discussed on Reddit or YouTube. But rather than try to answer this question, I would like to talk about a particular reference that caught my attention, the Panasonic Lumix LX100. For the context, this camera has been launched in 2014 at 900 euros. I have found this one for a little more than 300 euros on Le Bon Coin, which is basically a website like eBay where you can buy second-hand items, but I think it is limited to France only. So, what makes this camera so special? First of all, it is fairly small. Although it is not as pocketable as, let's say, a Ricoh GR or a Sony AX100, it is compact enough to be carried in a small bag without taking too much space, while having a 12 megapixel micro four third sensor mounted on a fixed lens, with a focal length ranging from 24 to 70 mm, a f1.7 aperture that goes up to only 2.8 at max zoom, buttons, a ton of buttons. Just to say, on the lens alone, you have a customizable ring, one for the aperture, switches for the focusing mode, and even the aspect ratio, shutter speed and exposure compensation dial, an electronic viewfinder, stabilization, and 4K recording. Really, the only thing missing here is probably an articulated screen. Otherwise, having all these specs gathered into one small device was pretty insane back in 2014. So, does it age well? Yes, except for one thing, the zooming speed. It is slow, extremely slow. To the point where I was wondering sometimes if it wouldn't be quicker to run to my subjects rather than waiting the lens to do it. But I am not sure if this approach is always the best, and more importantly, the safest. Other than that, manipulating this camera is a real pleasure thanks to all the buttons and dials, allowing me to quickly switch settings. Overall, I am a huge fan of this full manual experience. 12 megapixels could be a bit limiting if you tend to crop your pictures, which fortunately is not my case, as the slow but great zoom allows me to reach subjects that are a little too far from my position. Otherwise, this resolution is more than enough to provide very well detailed images, perfectly suitable to be shared on social medias. Moreover, the compression offered by the longer focal length, coupled with its wide aperture, also makes it quite good at shooting portraits. Overall, the only thing that could be a bit better is probably the highlight recovery on post, which is not as good as if I had shot the exact same scene with an IPS-C camera. But from a day-to-day basis, it is more than enough to cover most of my needs, and you can really make some nice pictures with this Lumix. And what about videos? While it isn't marketed as a video device first, it can at least record in 4K, with the exact same bitrate as the one I am currently using, which is actually pretty decent. So, is it usable too? I want to say yes, too. if you are not too demanding. While this camera offers some pretty decent image quality, this alone is not enough to provide a great experience. First, the stabilization is almost non-existent in video mode. Therefore, a gimbal or tripod is almost mandatory. Then there is no option to recording log, so you do not have a ton of flexibility when you color grade your videos. And finally, there is no support for external mics. Therefore, the audio you are listening here has been recorded with another device, which is not super convenient. So, although this camera provides a really good image quality in video, I can't really recommend it for making any serious video projects. Well, I am a huge fan of this camera, given how unique it is. With the death of the point-and-shoot market, the camera industry has slowly shifted toward devices intended to a more professional audience, leading to ever more expensive devices. But the thing is, even this specific audience doesn't always want to carry a heavy, expensive camera and a bag full of lenses all day to take some pictures. And turns out that it is exactly where this camera shines. It doesn't excel in every scenario, but it doesn't really suffer from any major shortcoming while being super feature packed and fairly small. And that's what's missing with Panasonic's recent camera releases, like the Lumix S9 that has a small body but needs huge lenses given the full frame sensor, or the GH7 or G9 II that both pack a micro four thirds sensor but are bigger than some full frame cameras. I understand that there are technical reasons behind all these choices, but I can't stop thinking that they have missed the opportunity to release something in between these two opposites. Something like a LX100 III or even a GX10.